There are 5 personality traits that create such powerful attraction in women that they literally can't stop thinking about you. And what's fascinating is that most men completely ignore these traits while focusing on things that don't actually matter. What I'm about to reveal is backed by decades of psychological research on human attraction and mate selection. The reason most guys struggle with women isn't because they lack good looks, money, or pickup lines. It's because they don't understand the psychological triggers that create genuine obsession and deep attraction in the female mind. These 5 traits tap into something much deeper than surface-level preferences. They activate evolutionary and psychological responses that women often can't even explain themselves. But here's what makes this particularly powerful. These traits can be developed by any man, regardless of his starting point. They're not dependent on genetics, wealth, or natural talent. They're psychological characteristics that become part of your personality when you understand and cultivate them properly. The first trait that makes women obsessed is unpredictability combined with reliability. This might sound contradictory, but it's actually the perfect psychological combination. You want to be unpredictable in your emotions and interactions while being completely reliable in your character and commitments. Here's the psychology behind this. The human brain is wired to pay attention to things that are novel and unexpected because unpredictability could signal either opportunity or danger. When someone is unpredictable, our brain stays engaged and alert because we never know what's coming next. But unpredictability alone can create anxiety and insecurity. That's why you need the reliability component. When a woman knows she can count on your integrity, your word, and your core character, but she never knows if you're going to be playful or serious, spontaneous or planned, challenging or supportive, her brain becomes fascinated with figuring you out. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, which is one of the most powerful psychological principles for creating addiction-like responses. It's the same principle that makes gambling so addictive. You never know when the reward is coming, so your brain stays constantly engaged. Most men make the mistake of being either completely predictable, which becomes boring, or completely unreliable, which creates anxiety. The magic happens when you combine both elements strategically. The second trait is emotional independence. This means your emotional state doesn't depend on external circumstances or other people's reactions. You remain centered and confident regardless of what's happening around you or how others are treating you. Women find this incredibly attractive because it signals psychological strength and maturity. When your mood doesn't change based on her reactions, when you don't get upset by minor setbacks, and when you maintain your positive energy even when things don't go your way, you demonstrate a level of emotional control that most men lack. This trait is particularly powerful because women often test men's emotional stability, sometimes unconsciously. They might withdraw affection, create small conflicts, or present challenging situations to see how you respond. When you remain emotionally stable and independent, you pass these tests without even realizing you were being tested. Emotional independence also means you don't need constant validation or reassurance from her. You're comfortable with silence, you don't take things personally, and you don't try to control her emotions or reactions. This creates space for her to actually miss you and think about you because you're not constantly seeking her attention. The third trait is having a mission that's bigger than the relationship. Women are psychologically drawn to men who are passionate about something meaningful beyond just dating and relationships. This could be your career goals, creative pursuits, personal growth journey, or a cause you believe in. The key is that this mission is genuinely important to you, not something you're pretending to care about to seem more attractive. When a woman senses that you have purpose and direction in your life that exists independently of her, several psychological responses are triggered. First, she doesn't feel the pressure of being responsible for your happiness and fulfillment. Second, she sees you as someone who's going somewhere in life rather than someone who's stagnant. Third, she has to compete with your mission for your time and attention, which makes your attention more valuable. Men with missions are attractive because they're not looking for someone to complete them. They're looking for someone to complement an already fulfilling life. This shifts the entire dynamic from you needing her to you choosing her, which is psychologically much more powerful. The fourth trait that creates obsession is selective validation. This means your approval and attention aren't given freely to everyone. They have to be earned. When you validate someone, it feels significant because you don't validate everyone or everything. Most men think they need to constantly compliment and praise women to create attraction, but this actually diminishes the value of their approval. When you compliment everything, your compliments become meaningless. When you agree with every opinion, your agreement carries no weight. Selective validation works because humans value things that are scarce and meaningful. When your approval is rare and specific, receiving it feels like a genuine accomplishment. This creates a psychological reward system where she starts working for your validation rather than taking it for granted. This doesn't mean being negative or withholding appreciation inappropriately. It means being genuine in your responses and only expressing approval when you actually feel it. When you do compliment her, make it specific and meaningful rather than generic and automatic. The fifth and most powerful trait is authentic confidence that comes from self-knowledge rather than external achievements. This is different from arrogance or fake confidence. It's a deep sense of self-assurance that comes from knowing who you are, what you value, and what you're capable of. This type of confidence is incredibly rare because most people's self-worth is tied to external validation, achievements, or comparisons with others. But when you have genuine self-knowledge and acceptance, you become unshakable in a way that's magnetic to others. Women can sense immediately whether someone's confidence is real or performed. Real confidence shows up in how you handle criticism, how you respond to challenges, and how comfortable you are with silence and uncertainty. It's not about being the loudest person in the room or constantly proving yourself. It's about being completely comfortable with who you are. This trait creates obsession because it's so rare in today's world. Most people are constantly seeking approval, comparing themselves to others, and trying to prove their worth. When someone has genuine self-assurance, it's both inspiring and attractive because it represents the psychological freedom that everyone wants, but few people achieve. Now, here's what makes these traits so powerful when combined. They create a psychological profile that triggers multiple attraction mechanisms simultaneously. You become someone who's intriguing but reliable, independent but caring, purposeful but present, selective but appreciative, and confident but genuine. This combination creates what psychologists call optimal challenge. You're attractive and available enough to maintain her interest, but complex and independent enough to keep her psychologically engaged. She can't figure you out completely, which keeps her brain actively thinking about you even when you're not around. But here's the crucial point that most men miss. These traits can't be faked or performed successfully long-term. They have to become genuine parts of your personality through real personal development. Women are incredibly skilled at detecting authenticity versus performance, and nothing kills attraction faster than realizing someone is putting on an act. The good news is that developing these traits improves every area of your life, not just your success with women. When you become emotionally independent, mission-driven, selectively validating, unpredictably reliable, and genuinely confident, you become more successful professionally, socially, and personally. These traits also attract higher quality women because they signal psychological health and maturity. Instead of attracting women who are looking for someone to fix them or complete them, you attract women who are whole themselves and looking for an equal partner. The development process requires honest self-examination and commitment to growth. You need to identify your authentic mission and passions rather than adopting what you think will impress others. You need to develop genuine emotional regulation skills rather than just suppressing emotions. You need to build real self-knowledge rather than creating a fake, confident persona. But when you do this work and these traits become natural parts of who you are, the results are transformative. Women don't just find you attractive, they become genuinely fascinated by you. They think about you when you're not around, they initiate contact, and they invest effort in keeping your attention because they recognize something rare and valuable. The most important thing to understand is that obsession in this context isn't about creating unhealthy dependency or manipulation. It's about becoming so psychologically attractive and interesting that people naturally want to be around you and think about you positively. When you embody these 5 traits authentically, you don't just become more attractive to women, you become the kind of person that others admire and want to emulate. You become someone who adds value to every interaction and relationship, which is the foundation of genuine attractiveness. Remember, the goal isn't to create artificial attraction through techniques or manipulation. It's to become the best version of yourself, someone who's naturally magnetic because of who you are rather than what you're pretending to be. These 5 traits represent the psychological foundation of authentic attractiveness, and developing them will transform not just your dating life, but your entire approach to relationships and personal success.